Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And Kyle, I don't know if you're ready for this, if you know about this, but we're about to transition from Nosferatu mid-late winter into Wolfman late winter. It's a whole new season, whole new monster. We're really excited about the upcoming feature film Wolfman, directed by Lee Winnell.
I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, it's happening.
Is Wolfman spring? Is that what we're going to call it maybe? Or
like late winter, because it's coming out like right now.
And it also has the alliteration aspect. That's true. Is that sort of like Year of the Snake type stuff? Or?
Yeah, like although it seems to have gotten more granular since release dates kind of have compacted over the years. Like you get a lot more movies coming out each week, so we have it's broken down into like 3 to 4 different seasons per season, so to speak.
Okay,
kind of doing like remember when all of a sudden every like network TV show decided that they had to break their season into and put a gap in the middle.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like that, but with 4.
Okay, so it's split up into 4 parts. I see.
Yeah.
So, what do we have on the docket for the upcoming seasons after Wolfman Late Winter's done? What are we seeing?
That's such a good. We have Megan early spring. I believe that's when Megan will come out. So we have Megan 2 hitting theaters.
It's Megan Mithrigan 2, you mean?
Yeah, Mithrigan 2 is coming out.
Okay.
And I've heard it's from early reports say that they're doing kind of a Terminator 2 thing where she is now switched sides.
Oh, good.
To fight off the more evil AI.
Okay.
So that will be really fun.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I had no idea that we were supposed to be entering Wolfman season.
Yeah, everyone howl at the moon tonight.
I haven't done anything to prepare for that. So when I'm done here, I'm going to go, like you said, I'm going to howl at the moon. That's definitely first up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to do some like lycanthropic type shit, get bitten. That's a good start, I think.
That's a good one,
bitten.
Yeah. Great night. Great way to start a night.
And when I get bitten, there's going to be sort of this it's going to be scary, right? Because it's scary to get bitten by a wolf man. But it's going to be kind of like maybe a little erotically charged and sort of the intertwining of the eroticism and the fear together. Like that's definitely there for the Wolfman. So 2 steps that you can take at home too is to get bitten by a Wolfman and 2, have it be sort of an erotic experience for you. And that is going to get you into... That's so funny, actually. I lied. I did prepare a little bit for Wolfman Late Winter because I caught the tail end of An American Werewolf in London just the other night.
Really?
My friends were watching it in the other room and I walked out and I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen this in forever. And it's the scene where he's in the theater talking to all the people that he's killed. Mm-hmm. And it's honestly like a grim kind of funny scene where they're all telling him he should kill himself for what he's done. And they're like telling him all the different methods he can try. It's like funny, but it's also like, ooh, this is creepy. And then
good movie.
Runs out and gets hit by a bus. So I think that's the part of Wolfman Late Winter I'm going to try and see if I can, if not skip. I won't be getting hit by a bus in my Wolfman form, but I will be either trying to skip that aspect of it, or maybe I can see if I can push it, down the calendar a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a requirement as a wolfman to just like die tragically in some way.
I think that it is usually thematically driven. Like
Yeah.
it usually does make sense. I'm really going to focus on for this season the part where I wake up and I only have like a tattered rag around my crotch that I'm holding with
And
one hand.
Yes.
And
yes.
I wake up confused and kind of dirty.
Yes.
That's my focus for this Wolfman Late Winter.
You would be fucking serving Wolfman at that point. And I honestly eagerly anticipate Vampire Fall, where we all get like super horny about drinking each other's bloods. I'm noticing that all these things have a sort of horniness to them, which is fun for me, I guess.
Yeah, the eroticism of the grotesque, all that shit. Yeah, I got you.
So, well,
anyway, I'm sure that has everything to do with what we're talking about this week.
Well, it's weird. I was sort of aghast for a second there because there is a whole Wolfman incident that sort of happens in the middle of this story, and it's very unexpected. And that's why I was saying, like, you're not prepared for where this story is going to go. It's very strange. We just completely careen off course from UFOs into Wolfman shit. So this week, we're going to wrap up the story of Ernest Bryant and the Scoriton Incident. So if you somehow missed the part 1, the previous episode, here's a very brief refresher to get you up to speed. British dude named Ernest Bryant met the occupants of a UFO who seemed to have a bunch of mysterious ties to the famous contactee George Adamski, and also they claim that they will bring quote-unquote proof of Mantell, which is a very obvious reference to the Mantell crash where an Air National Guard pilot crashed and died in pursuit of a UFO. But like 1948 or 47, like months after the Kenneth Arnold sighting, which is the seminal UFO sighting, basically. In between recording this episode and the last episode, I was actually able to find a couple more sources that elaborate on the most bizarre element of the Scoriton mystery. So I'm very excited to tell you about that today. I'll tell you also my sources at the end of the episode. It's fascinating. So,
all right.
With Bryant's report of all this UFO, the British UFO Research Association, or BUFORA, they get heavily involved. They try to pin the story down and analyze the strange materials that Bryant claims to have picked up in a field nearby. There's scorch marks, all this shit, classic UFO stuff. Lots of weird loose ends, these materials that he's found. There's the bottle with the Greek message. It's like Adelphi or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we talked about that in the first one. They take the parts to get psychometry readings, psychic readings. They get results that seem to confirm Bryant's story, which is, again, weird. So things are very strange at this point. Like the case is strange. It's going to get much stranger. So
thank you for not name dropping the podcast. You hit your thesaurus and worked around it.
I sat there. You have no idea how long I sat there trying to think of a word that was different from weird. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I have a personal challenge this year of 2025 to not use a thesaurus. And that is something that I do constantly when I write these episodes. I'm constantly thesaurusizing words because, and you can tell me if you think this is a crackpot theory or not, but mm-hmm. I find that when I say big words that are different from the words you might immediately assume, people out there go, whoa, he's smart. He knows what he's talking about. He's got credibility because he's so intelligent. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm trying to give off by thesaurusizing.
By going to Sephora? Yeah. I think you're right, and you can really knock it up a notch by going through and just on your notes, every single word, go through a thesaurus and replace it with something at least with more letters.
Yeah.
And I think that'll make the episodes much smarter and better.
Yeah, which people are going to love.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's the year of big words, 2025.
So shit's super weird in the story already. I got a couple more things that elucidated some stuff because I feel like I didn't get like a full picture of some of the people involved in this until I'll just say it now. I had to go to another podcast, to get information about this story because it's not anywhere else. I was complaining before the show started to you about how, for whatever reason, some of the really weird shit in this story just is not written about online I only was able to find it in a podcast. Presumably so apparently it's in Eileen Buckle's book, The Scoriton Mystery. But again, that's like a $90 book bare minimum. So I don't have it. So yeah, Eileen Buckle, she's a BUFORA investigator and author of the book, The Scoriton Mystery. She's deeply mired in the case at this point. And so in listening to her being discussed from the point of view of somebody who has read her book, they make it sound like her mentality during this case is like, let me put it this way. She's running into what I think is a very classic UFO investigation problem, because she often comes across as trying to affirm her beliefs in the UFO phenomenon, and is sort of going out of her way to, as a result, she's going out of her way to affirm the story of Ernest Bryant. Like, she wants to find Ernest Bryant credible. She wants to find some of the strange things in here credible because it's going to, prove what she already believes about UFOs.
Yeah, a very common thing that you see in the UFO community and in other like outsider circles. Like it's you work from your assumption and try to make everything else fit behind it, which is common.
It's unfortunate. And the thing is, like, I don't want to like discredit her, because the other thing that I got about her is like, apparently her writing in the Scoriton Mystery is quite good. And her partner in this investigation were very thorough. They just were already sort of operating from that want to believe perspective, which it causes problems with trying to investigate something like this. So, even I'll tell you this much: even after everything's said and done, and everything we're about to talk about has happened, apparently her account in her book about the Scoriton Mystery, which again I have not read, I don't have access, she comes away with a favorable account of Ernest Bryant, which her partner does not. Which, speaking of her partner, I have to mention here, Buckle was working with a fellow investigator named Norman Oliver, who assisted on the book.
Okay.
I kind of missed his involvement in the case just because he doesn't really get brought up in before his newsletter coverage by name in the story. And I somehow skimmed. I don't know how I do this sometimes. I just blatantly missed that his name was the name attached to these articles. Like, he wrote them.
Oh, okay.
So Norman Oliver wrote, I think I misattributed the author because I was like looking around in the newsletter trying to figure out who wrote it. Somehow missed that it just says below the title, Norman Oliver. That's who wrote it. And he helped write this book. He was on the investigation with her. They worked closely. So what's interesting about Norman Oliver is that while he helped write this book, he seems, even from the beginning, while he's like sort of leaning towards I want to believe territory, I would say at the start, he's like, it sounds like he's like 75% I want to believe, 25% skeptical. And then at the very end, he's 100% skeptical. So he would actually even publish a follow-up to Buckle's book that was titled Sequel to Scoriton. And in that, which again, I haven't read that, I've heard like maybe 2 snippets from it, he just completely drops his faith in Ernest Bryant and even goes so far as to calling it a hoax.
Interesting. Okay.
So let's... Oh, also, if I had to guess as to why Oliver wasn't totally present in the telling of this story and all this other stuff, there's other BUFORA investigators getting involved. There's other UFO organizations getting involved. The impression that I got from some of the stuff that people read online, this is a little speculation because I don't know for sure. It seems that they're trying to avoid the interplay of UFO organization politics. So they're kind of downplaying it maybe. And I think just they didn't want it to blow up the investigation by having all this shit collapse on it, is the impression that I got.
Gotcha. Okay.
They never say anything like that in the newsletter specifically, but that's what it feels like in one of the accounts that I read of a person who read the book who's then saying they're avoiding UFO organization politics. So I don't know.
Okay.
So after all that psychic reading stuff, we get what the BUFORA newsletter calls an intrusion. They use the word intrusion. of a new character in the story. This is a physicist named Dr. Milton L. Newton, but the name that they ask him, so apparently they only referred to him in the book as Dr. N, because he seems to not want to use his name. And when they get involved with him, this guy has them refer to him by his nickname Scotty. So,
well, I mean, he's a physicist named Dr. Newton. That has to be such a weird thing to deal with. Like, I get that that's not the actual reason he wouldn't want to give his name in this UFO book, but like, it has to be weird going in. It's like someone with the last name Bach trying to write piano music now. Like, it just doesn't like feel right that's that's a thing, you know? The name, they retired the jersey. It's up in the rafters, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I think he has other reasons for concealing his name that we're going to get to. And just to note, I tried to look into what apparently is his real name, Dr. Milton Newton. I couldn't find the guy. I couldn't find information about him. I get the impression that he was also an older guy when they meet him, so I have a feeling he's dead. I have no info on this guy other than what is written about him in this case. And apparently the book, The Scoriton Mystery, has a more detailed account of the guy, which I wish I had the book because I want to know more. But I'll tell you what I do have. Do you think that I think you do have a good point though about him wanting to change his name as a physicist named Newton. Do you think the people, you know, when they're like, "Oh, have you met Dr. Newton?" they're like, "Oh, the Apple guy"?
Yeah, you know, like it's just, it adds a step to like the introduction. Like anytime you have something that just requires you to have an addendum to your introduction of yourself, I find it really funny. Yeah. Like maybe it's because I grew up having to say like the river after my name every time I introduce myself. Yeah. So it just is charming to me.
Yeah. But. So the story goes that around the time the Scoriton investigation was ongoing, a BUFORA member named Ken Rogers came into contact with this guy, Scotty. Apparently one of Scotty's friends and a fellow UFO enthusiast named Peter Wilshire called up Eileen Buckle because I think they knew that Eileen Buckle was on this Bryant case. And they tell her that she should get in touch with this Scotty person. And they tell her that Scotty has information about Bryant's case that she would find, quote, extremely interesting. And that she should bring the recovered pieces which, if you recall, he picked up like random scrap metal pieces and stuff.
And a light bulb.
Yeah, like a light bulb. It was a bunch of different things. And they're like, you should bring that when you go see Scotty. They were also informed that Scotty would be happy to help, but didn't want any publicity, which I again find interesting. So Buckle and Oliver arrange a meeting with Scotty in June of 1966. And when they get there, they bring the parts that they recovered from the supposed UFO scene, and they're immediately gobsmacked to find that Scotty has laid out a number of machine pieces on a table for when they arrive that are remarkably similar to what Bryant had recovered from the UFO site. And then Scotty proceeds to tell them the wildest shit ever. Just weave an absolute fucking story. It's crazy. So he tells them that he's from a fairly secretive organization of retired scientists, and they study independently and a bit under the radar lots of different things, but one of those things includes the UFO phenomenon. And Scotty claims, along with this team of scientists, that he had visited the site of the Mantell crash only a few days after it occurred, and that's where they had recovered pieces from the crash. And in picking up these pieces that he claims is from the Mantell crash, they find that one of the pieces that they brought along with them from Bryant, it fits perfectly into one of the pieces that he has on the table. They're able to put it together.
Yeah. And then it magically re-seams together and is a perfectly new thing.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think they're lying.
That's fair.
I don't think they're making up that this guy had pieces that magically fit into Bryant's pieces. I think something else is going on. And we'll get to that.
Okay.
So
this is just like the most comic book shit.
I
Like,
know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right.
And I think it really happened. I am inclined to believe that this is how it went down. But Scotty continues to be fucking bizarre because he tells them more stories. I wish oh my God, I want a book about this man specifically. He claims to have traveled to Tunguska in 1908 to investigate the Tunguska event, which notoriously was this massive explosion, right?
Yeah.
It gets attributed to UFOs in a lot of lore. But he also says, that his team of UFO scientists had also made expeditions to Sodom and Gomorrah and, quote, 3 other previously unknown cities that were destroyed. He shows Buckle and Oliver materials that he supposedly recovered from these expeditions. He shows them photographs of Cambodian temples of Angkor Wat, coupled with an explanation that he personally believes, which is that the Khmer people who built the temples there may have been aliens. And he theorizes
Isn't that an ancient aliens belief?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah, exactly. It's an ancient aliens type thing.
I think I remembered that from when we watched that Chariots of the Gods documentary.
Yeah. So he says all that, and he also theorizes this, what's so crazy about this. Well, I think one of the places that I was reading a little bit about this guy, because he gets briefly mentioned in one of my sources, they say something to the effect of like Buckle's description in the book of Scotty presages the contemporary like UFO figure of like ancient aliens ilk. Like he feels like this. I can imagine this dude saying all of the shit I just described on an episode of Ancient Aliens. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's 1966.
What's his hair like? Does he have a distinctive hairdo?
Yeah. I unfortunately don't have anything on the hairdo, but like this is like to a T the shit that many decades later would become foundational for the very long running Ancient Aliens program. Like this is that exact stuff. He also, like I said, he also theorizes that the explosion at Tunguska and these destroyed biblical ancient cities that he apparently visited all come from the same source, which I'm assuming he's hinting at aliens. So this guy's fucking bizarre.
I wonder if he's the Tower of Babel was like a nuclear weapon kind of, or hydrogen weapon kind of guy, you know?
Yeah. God, that shit's so crazy. But I could see him being one of those guys. I mean, the thing is, he's so ahead of his time. It feels like this is so. I guess the '60s it makes some sense, but I think we even recently discussed how like the ancient alien stuff, to my mind, feels like a '70s thing. But I think '60s is. Probably,
I think it started in that. Like '70s is when it got like
popular.
Actually popular.
Yeah,
and the '60s is when some of the texts were from.
Yeah, so. Scotty asks the investigators to leave the parts with him for analysis and promises a follow-up. He does write to them, and he gives them a few nuggets of information that would seem to confirm Bryant's story. There's this like dirt and dust analysis, which it says in the letter that it's positive and that it indicates that it came from the United States, and that their analysis shows that there are multiple parts that show clear signs of disintegration. So this all neatly fits into one of the rumors surrounding the Mantell crash, which is that the plane had disintegrated. So what Scotty is confirming for them and the psychic readings, both those things are telling Buckle and Oliver that the Mantell aspect of this is true, that these parts that Bryant had discovered were somehow from the crash plane all the way out here in Britain.
Interesting. Okay.
So Oliver would have a few more visits with Scotty to discuss the case. However, while Scotty promised a detailed report on the analysis of the pieces, that never materialized. And for some reason that Oliver, I wish I had more details about this. Oliver doesn't really understand what this is about, and he says so himself, but he says that Scotty and Buckle, quote, began to be at odds on matters not directly associated with the Bryant affair. And so it seems the two have a very sudden falling out during their correspondence. So I think they lose some contact with Scotty. Not only does he like string them along with this report shit, but then like Buckle and Scotty no longer want to talk to one another. I don't know what happened.
Interesting. Okay.
So now we have to take a brief detour to talk about something that I found information on, like I said, in only one place. Only one place. It's in the book, but I have only ever heard this talked about in a podcast, which is the Saucer Life with Aaron Golias.
Right.
Somebody sent him a copy of the book and a copy of the Scoriton sequel so that he can read all this stuff.
Hell yeah.
We got to get a PO box.
We got to get that. Yeah. All right.
It's so weird. None of the BUFORA articles, newsletters, none of the websites or blogs that I found referencing the story talk about this for some reason. And this was the only way that I was able to learn about it. So Aaron Golias relates the extremely strange and somewhat eerie detour that happens during this investigation. So throughout the investigation, Oliver and Buckle had been making audio recordings of interviews and discussions surrounding the Bryant case. There's apparently hours of recordings of interviews with Bryant and people associated. I think Oliver even takes a recording of Scotty for like an hour and a half talking with him about stuff.
Okay.
On one of those recordings, Oliver is shocked to discover that there is a voice message embedded into the recording.
So what you mean is that in the recording, there was some voice recording that was not playing in the room that is on that recording.
Yes. Okay. They are recording these interviews and stuff, and then they hear a click and a voice starts to speak to them.
Interesting. Okay.
So the first message would seem to be, they all seem to kind of be like instructions. So according to Golias, who again is reading Buckle's book, she more readily attributed this sudden appearance of these recorded voices to space people, but it seems that Oliver is like more mixed. He's like, I don't know what to think about any of this. They are both baffled. When they would hear these voices pop up in recordings, like I said, there would be a click before the message. And this is the message that they first received. Here's what it says. You believe we are playing, my friend. We will play with you more. Hear me. The furlong is long. Be there Sunday week. Overlooking the vale when all are asleep. Before the dark falls on Edburton go, if timing is wrong, why there you will know. No hurt will befall, no harm none to you, if no one is told apart from the two.
Jesus. Okay, so we got some fucking rhymes going. All right.
They're receiving cryptic rhyming messages directed at them, superimposed on their investigation recordings, which is insane. And
yeah.
I think this also may have actually happened. Maybe. I think.
Okay.
I don't know why they would lie about it. You know what? Let me just get through it. So Buckle seems to think the voice is inhuman, or maybe sounds kind of human, but maybe disguised and robotic. And so Oliver and Buckle, the two of them, decide to go to Edburton, follow the instructions, and camp out there in the night with a tape recorder, letting it record to see if they capture anything. They get another message. And
wild.
Some of these are like kind of cut off at the start. I think that like there's even a couple moments where apparently it's like a little garbled. So it almost sounds like you miss a word or two at the start of these. So here's what I have from the second message. Arrived before 2 it will be. We may be prevented from coming all 3. Take care from today all that you do and keep well together. Divided you'll rue. A time to receive is at the last quarter, as the bright one you see, and the bearer of water. So they're trying to decipher this message, and they determine that last quarter is likely a reference to the moon, and bearer of water is probably a reference to the constellation of Aquarius. And from that, they're able to determine that the message is saying July 10th. And so on July 10th, Oliver sets up a recorder and receives another message. But for some fucking reason, this message is in Morse code. He says that while working this is the other part that freaks me out. It's so creepy once we wrap this story up and there's some extra context. Because Oliver says that while he was working to decipher this particular message, he suddenly feels that his arm is paralyzed and his ears start ringing. And then a few minutes later, it passes and the sensations go away.
This was one crazy ass ARG. Like really early on.
Yeah,
wow.
1960s ARG. So he finally deciphers this Morse code message, and it's a long one and it's crazy. It actually starts with a call sign, which the call sign is AACC, reported 4 times, the letters. And then this is the message in Morse code. As you have solved our last message you hear, we regret not to come, but we could not get yours. So they're apologizing that they didn't show up. This may happen again. There is no guarantee. We may be quite close to, yet you, not us, see. Sending, receiving, with practice you'll find the bond we referred to both have in your mind. Nor yet this alone, as shortly will show, further than that we will not as yet go. At the end of your week in 20 days' time, a chance that we meet you when dawn is in trine. Please keep still all between the two and hope that we may see will tell you when you may reveal to please keep still all between the two and hope that we may see will tell you when you may reveal to others of the three. Above all, keep together. We repeat it again. All problems you'll solve remaining as twain, from your car to the bridge to the woods that are new, over grids and a ford through Gorley's the two. A beggar you'll pass, then by the 3 trees turn to E. Linwood, go past the inn, please. I'm not sure the rhyming scheme here. It's very weird. A beggar you'll pass, then by the 3 trees turn to E. Linwood, go past the inn, please.
Yeah, we got some, wow, this is...
It's like fucking fairy trickster, It's so ridiculous. Then where the trees clear, stop near them you ought, between 10 and midnight, for time will be short. Put tape on if nothing is seen for an hour, if write more directions, this lies in our power. And then something happens. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What does happen? Because like these are such like...
It feels a little bit like a joke almost.
Yeah, but it feels like such small town, like, aren't really street names, so they're giving you landmark-based directions.
It's also it's like countryside Britain, to be fair. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
It feels like that. It's so... The fact that this is all in, like, rhymes, but, like, the rhymes aren't... How do I say this? The rhyme's very simple, and the word choice feels like someone who's trying to force a rhyme a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like there's a line that ended with rue, which is like such a fucking... When anytime that I've had to write poetry or like rhyme stuff at school or whatever in the past, you end up with a couple lines where you have to like wedge a word in that's like a weird synonym.
Weird. Yes, absolutely. I think I 100% agree. I think that the fact that you're picking up on that, this almost feels like somebody writing elementary school poetry who doesn't want to.
Yeah. It's like they decided that it had to be in verse, so they're like, okay.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
Yes. So something happens here that spooks Buckle. The message then specifically calls her out and says that the rest of the message is for her. It says this: "From here, this is for your young lady alone. Cease to interpret, she'll try on her own. Your writings will pass your greatest hopes," which I think is a reference to her writing the book. "The results will be outstanding. but relax yourself from time to time and be not too demanding. It's left to you if your part in you tell of what we have just said. The decision is yours, remembering how our messages have read. The wrong one make, and you will find you both, and then it's garbled. The message trails off and gets harder to discern, but the message, I think the implication is clear. The wrong decision, and Buckle and Oliver will die.
Yeah. A little, almost like a little threat at the end there. Interesting.
Yeah. Doesn't sound very Space Brotherly, does it?
No.
Which is...
Gets a little more intense.
It's, again, like, this entire time, Buckle is thinking that these are extraterrestrial beings communicating with them.
Mm-hmm.
The question that torments her and Oliver is, why would space people be doing this? Why? This is bizarre. Why is this? Why are they talking to them about, like, specific locations in countryside Britain? Like, why are they speaking in rhyme? Why are they... What in the fuck is this, right?
Why was that one message in Morse code? Like, why? Come on.
The two investigators, once again, they're interpreting the message as instructions to meet at a time and place, so they get another message after following the instructions, but the contents of the message are not written in her book, apparently. Goliath, in the Saucer Life episode, he describes how at this point both Oliver and Buckle are stressed and spooked, and whatever is in the message they received here convinced Buckle that whatever was messaging them was malevolent.
Okay.
But I don't know what the contents of that message was. Now, I like the way Buckle talks about this is very interesting, I think, because she basically describes how it felt that whatever was messaging them seemed almost like it was sort of pretending to be their friend, feigning assistance only to pull the rug out from them and try to muddle what had previously been a good investigation. She like specifically says something about how, like, the investigation got worse because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, she is now convinced that these beings they're in contact with are evil. Oliver still really doesn't know what to think. He's mostly just puzzled. So he ends up agreeing to go get the next message on his own following the instructions. But here's the thing. Buckle gives a recorded message to Oliver to play for these beings. And she basically tells them that she finds the entire messaging gambit strange and that she refuses to work with them at their evil. She also informs them that there's a whole, like, side thing where she is escorting I believe their friend to another UFO meetup thing, and that friend happens to be a blind man. And she's like, I'm not leaving this blind guy to go, do all this himself. I'm going to help him. So her message, she relays to the alien beings or whatever they are, like, you've scheduled, like, basically their message for their instructions for when to meet next fell on the day that she was to take this blind man to the UFO meetup. And she says in her message to them that Oliver carries for her, like, I have to help a blind man on that day, and that's why I can't be here. So he brings that message. He takes that message for her. Now, here's another little side tidbit that is brought up in the Saucer Life episode, and I think also the book. And it seems to tie together with this bizarre message thing that's happening.
Okay.
Oliver had previously investigated a UFO sighting in a town called Everly a month prior to when they started receiving these cryptic messages. And he had brought a few investigators with him on his trip, including a man named John Cranston, who claimed to have psychic abilities. And during the trip, Cranston begins to express discomfort with the investigation, and he says that he's sensing that, quote, something somewhere was wrong. For some reason during this trip, as things proceed, as they're going through Everly, the investigation team gets pulled over by police who are checking every car that's passing through the area.
Okay.
Not long after that, Cranston, the guy who was picking up the bad vibes, abandons it. He just leaves. He's like, I don't want to be a part of this. Oliver and the others continued, and they arrive on a spot where a group of UFO watchers are already huddled watching the skies. One of Oliver's cohorts named Gary claims that at this point he received a message in his mind that they were coming. But unfortunately, they stick around for quite a while and no UFO shows up. They had been investigating what I think was kind of like a little flap in the area. And yeah, they're there to see if they can catch a sighting. Nothing happens.
Okay. So they were not coming.
They were not coming, but that's what Gary claims was in his mind. So Oliver's sort of frustrated by the total deflation of this particular investigation. And he expresses, I think in the book, how he felt like they were, quote, being played with. So fast forward to the recorded messages stuff again. Oliver writes to Buckle while she's away. And since she decided not to join him on the next meeting, he writes her and he tells her that it's urgent she be there for the next intercept. He's heard another message from the entities, but this time it's in his head. And the message he hears is, she must come. She has to come.
Interesting. So like they think some of these people think these are aliens.
Yeah.
And so the aliens are either progressing with their method of communication, but like also they dropped the rhyme scheme for that one. Like there's a very inconsistent game being played here.
Weird stuff. There's a whole thing too where like, because something in one of the messages, they mention like a bond. In one of the messages mentions a bond between the two, James Bond. And they think that what that message means is some sort of psychic connection. So at a certain point, Buckle and Oliver decide they're going to do a psychic like test. And they're going to go to their own homes and then try to psychically relay messages to each other. Okay. And Oliver, like in a sort of drowsy state, has like a dream vision where they make it sound like he's awake, but it sounds like he was like half asleep also. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how he like has this vision of like basically following through the woods and up a hill and all this stuff, which he interprets as more instructions from these beings. The point being, psychic stuff is not out of the realm of possibility for these two. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, like, I don't know what to make of the psychic stuff, but it makes me feel like it's, you know what? We'll put a pause on that because we have to get through some stuff before we can really even reassess what happened here. And we still have more messages. So just I don't know. Great. Keep that stuff in your mind. So he gets this message that she has to come in this household. The lady comes first. Goliath, in his covering of this part of the story, he relates the trip to Everly and this supposed psychic message from Oliver's friend. He sort of relates it to the one that Oliver is receiving here. And furthermore, he notes that the beings had originally mentioned that they believed they were being played with, which is a sentiment Oliver seemed to already believe or express before they started receiving the messages. So it feels like there's some continuity. If the beings are talking about you think you're being played with, they seem to know about both of these investigators. Yeah,
they have like they're familiar with their work and everything, so they know the previous case. Interesting. So these if these are aliens, they've been watching these guys at least since the previous investigation, or can read their minds.
Yeah. There's like other nearby UFO shit going on, like. I think it was like Warminster. There was a big UFO event that happened like within recent, like close by to Bryant's experience. So, UFOs were having a moment in this region. I think it was Warminster. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. But anyways, Oliver receives another Morse code message in a recording. Here's what it says. We abandoned verse. Time too short. It misled you. Our message You like that?
We made it too hard.
We were having too much fun, and it was too hard to rhyme. I mean, you heard that shit with Rue.
Yeah.
We're really stretching it here.
We're ditching the gimmick.
No more gimmicks.
Straight talk.
Time too short. It misled you. Our message tested reactions in part telling future events. Your paper observer near truth. Necessary for you both to clear your minds of deception or mental contact difficult. Worry clouds brain. Your book in danger from yourself. The man has spoken true. We hear the lady's message. We are sorry for the blind man. We are not evil, but tried to prevent personal complications from stopping book. This is now in danger from yourselves. Repeat. This part's so fucking weird. This is now in danger from yourselves. Repeat. You will not be impregnated by us. It is possible an Earthman has already done so. Side note, and I didn't bring this up at the start of the show, but if you remember, part of Bryant's story is that there are negative entities that are sort of running counter to the benevolent Venusians he met that are here in the guise of poltergeists that want to take humans off-world for quote-unquote procreation reasons. This is also them, I think, making a very deliberate reference to the shit going on with Bryant's story.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So these would be. They're saying we're not the bad guys that would impregnate
we're
you.
not going to impregnate you. Also, an Earthman maybe already has. Speaking to Buckle.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, strange you should be, and then it's garbled here, and I think it maybe says aghast by our own message, which, by the way, another fun tidbit, Buckle, in her message that she had Oliver relay to them for her, she also adopts the rhyming scheme, and I think aghast is a word that she uses in it. But the message goes on to say, you are not speaking true. You tried to hide your own actions, and you cannot. We wanted both together for you to see the other's actions. Special danger of complications of your own making over next 3 or 4 weeks, especially lady. She will know these can and must be avoided. We shall see. So, just to get this out of the way, Buckle is not pregnant. It almost reads to me as if whoever or whatever it is that is messaging them is following them closely and is maybe Buckle and Oliver are like developing a romantic thing. Maybe we fucking see if we can shoot in one that he got her pregnant is almost what it feels like. Or maybe
she just wore like a loose blouse one day and they're like,
Christ.
hiding something.
That's possible. Yeah, maybe they did see her with clothes befitting a pregnant woman. I don't know. It's so bizarre though, right? Like it's like
that is strange.
Truly strange. But yeah, she's not pregnant and she's weirded out by this and she's even more convinced that this is sinister. And they kind of just get strung along by these messages. Now I realize that we've been far away from Bryant for a minute.
Yes.
Like it's a total detour, right? It completely distracts from the actual case. But this is what was happening to them and what they were dealing with while they were trying to investigate this case. And they're not just getting strung along by the messages, because remember, there's this so-called Dr. Scotty, who they were in correspondence with. Again, back to Dr. Scotty. He never follows up. The dude actually, like, one of the BUFORA investigators, I forget which one, expresses in the newsletter that, like, they had pretty quickly begun to question Scotty's credentials. And it's revealed.
Yeah, why?
It's
come on. He's so believable.
It's revealed that he is a total fraud and he fabricated his scientific credentials. He's not a doctor. He's not a physicist. I don't know what this dude is or who he is.
Maybe we've got a secret British Richard Doty on our hands that's just going out there to sow chaos.
Kind of feels like it, doesn't it? Kind of feels like it. So
getting boss baby vibes here.
So over time, it begins to become very clear that there's also a lot of inconsistencies coming from Bryant himself. There's just, honestly, if we were to just sit here and list all the shit that like was wrong with his claims and his story, it would take way too long. And it's not super interesting, but I'll highlight some stuff.
Okay.
So like one of the weird details is Bryant would go see a doctor. He's complaining of migraines. Whether or not he was going to see this particular doctor for the migraine thing, I don't know. And the doctor, to avoid, violations, doesn't, when in correspondence with BUFORA, doesn't bring up what he says. He doesn't remember what Bryant was visiting him for. But he goes to visit this doctor, and the doctor, Bryant had been telling Oliver and Buckle that this doctor was talking to him about UFOs, and that the doctor told him a story. He brought up UFOs at their last checkup or whatever, and the doctor tells Bryant, like, oh, I had a UFO experience where in the presence of the UFO, my car's headlight beams bent.
Okay, that's a new one. Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's a specific detail. And Bryant, I guess, tells somebody about this. And when Oliver would get in contact with this doctor, the doctor would insist that this was ridiculous. He didn't mention UFOs. He basically tells Oliver, look, I have had a UFO experience. I believe in the things, but I didn't bring them up in our conversation. And basically this story that Brian's telling you is made up. And it's also like Oliver would find that. So after Oliver and Buckle start investigating this case and getting involved with Bryant, they actually help him sign up for a subscription to the newsletter. So he's a subscriber to the newsletter, and Oliver realizes that a story that had run recently involved that exact detail about bent lights from a car's headlights in a UFO experience. So he's literally just telling a story that he read in the newsletter and attributing it to his doctor, is what it seems like. A bunch of other shit happens. So Bryant, unfortunately, like I said, he'd been complaining of migraines. He ends up in a hospital in Bristol mid-May, and he undergoes surgery for a brain tumor. And the outlook's not great. So like during this entire time and all these weird inconsistencies and details and things, basically towards the end of his life and after he dies, his story is just completely falling apart. There's so many things that are just not right. And clearly, like, they find that he's friends with a guy who is a subscriber to the magazine that would have had the information about Adamski in it and stuff. All this stuff comes out. And he's like, I don't know whether it's that he lied, but he like told them that he had worked at a place for 7 years. And when they investigate that, it turned out he'd only been there for 7 weeks, I think. So like,
felt like 7 years.
But here's the
workers?
thing. Here's the thing. He's been complaining of migraines. He has a brain tumor.
Yeah.
His mind, this is the thing. The problem here is like, there's a lot of speculation. And people are like, some of the people involved with this case are basically saying, did the tumor influence any of this? What part of this could, because like you can hallucinate with certain brain tumors, like that, it can cause all kinds of problems. We're going to kind of wrap with this talk here, but we'll get to that in a minute. But like the question is like, was he just like a blatant hoaxer, or did he report a sighting and then it kind of got out of control as he started talking about it? And did he conflate hallucinations with reality? What happened, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So the tumor and his death, it throws another huge wrench in things. Ultimately, his case is technically unsolved. That
sounds like a House episode where a guy is convinced he's abducted by UFOs, or like,
but he has a brain
UFO
tumor.
Stuff.
Yeah,
but it turns out he has like a brain tumor that he doesn't know about.
It's a bummer. So I wanna read a little snippet here from the newsletter, written by Oliver, where he's visiting him, like I think while he's in the hospital. And here's what he says. After visiting Bryant, however, I called on his wife and family myself, something Bryant had always requested that no one should do. Why did he ask him to not talk to his wife? I think presumably the idea, at least initially, was that he didn't want the notoriety, heaped on his family. But I think it's for another reason. It goes on to say, a complimentary copy of the book had been sent. This is the Scoriton mystery. Had been sent to Bryant and his wife had read it. She confirmed the opinion of others I'd approached and said it was complete fiction.
Yeah.
Information about a number of things was given, such as the date they'd had TV installed. So one of the things that was contentious about this was Bryant claims that they didn't have a TV in their household until after he'd had his UFO experience, because that would disconnect him from seeing the program about the house in Yeovil, where supposedly the family had been abducted by the nefarious alien beings.
Right. He couldn't have known about it because he didn't have a TV. So, yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Oh my God, it's so funny. So, information about a number of things was given, such as the date they'd had TV installed, that they'd been living at Marl Park at the time of the sighting in pieces, and indeed, since 1963, and not, as Bryant had said, since just after the sighting, that Bryant had seen the Westward TV program about the Yeovil house. He had seen the program about this house where the people went missing. Even worse, they find out from his wife, he had written to the television program people about the incident. Like, he wrote to them about the Yeovil house missing people.
So he's very much like an enthusiast. Like he was.
It was on his mind.
He's like he's on this shit. Okay.
Most damning, though, is that in 1964, he'd purchased a wooden box full of gadgetry from a naval surplus store in Doncaster. There were almost 100 pieces altogether, and those that he claimed were picked up in the field had almost certainly originally been amongst them. It was obvious why Bryant had requested no one should visit his wife and family. It did, however, beg the question as to how Scotty Newton's pieces came to match those we'd taken to him. However, this point, together with the psychometrist's reading, were both easily explainable, as we will see. So, lots of inconsistencies. It falls apart. The Yeovil House mystery, they basically find out that no, the people didn't disappear. They did end up finding the people. It was a family who lived there. It was a man and his wife and his son. Apparently people living nearby would hear them fighting all the time. It would end up that the husband would be put in like a mental institution, and then the wife and son would move to London, and he was able to get in contact with them, and he was like, yeah, these are the people who lived in the Yeovil house. They were not abducted by malevolent aliens who wanted to impregnate them. So yeah, all this is happening, all this stuff's falling apart, and on June 24th, 1967, Ernest Bryant would pass away. Total coincidence, this would be on the 19th anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold sightings.
That's a nice bit of synchronicity. All right.
Okay. I'm about to tell you the little cherry on top to this whole fucking story that is so absurd that I just I couldn't believe it when I was learning about it.
Fantastic. I'm ready.
So there's a UFO researcher named Rich Reynolds. I actually tried to get to... So apparently Rich Reynolds is still blogging about UFO stuff, and I went to look at it, and I have like a blogger account because that's sometimes how I find information. It says I have permission denied to go to this guy's blog. I really want to find a way onto it and see if I can learn more about this, because Rich Reynolds in the late 1970s relays this story about how he was contacted by a man named Bosko Nedeljkovic, who... Honestly, some of the stuff revolving around Bosko Nedeljkovic, probably worth an episode. He is talking with Rich Reynolds and telling him stuff. Nedeljkovic had worked for the U.S. Department of State's Agency for International Development, and, drumroll please, he has ties to the CIA.
So I wasn't crazy far off. All right.
So he tells Reynolds that he doesn't think that Bryant's encounter in the Scoriton mystery is extraterrestrial in nature. He believes that it was top secret experimentation. Specifically, he thinks that Bryant was a victim of mind control program, similar to the work done in the CIA's MKUltra program. So Nedeljkovic tells Reynolds that in the United States and in Britain, there were these bogus UFO episodes where people were being led to believe that they had encounters with UFOs, but it wasn't actually UFOs. And Nedeljkovic says that these staged UFO events involved, quote, visual displays, radar displacement, and artifact droppings. And Nedeljkovic says that he's pretty sure Bryant was one of these people who got targeted for this program. Supposedly what had happened was CIA people got in contact with a man, which Nedeljkovic, I guess, had a report because the CIA was admonished for their handling of this whole situation. They got in contact with a man who's presumed to be Bryant, and they took him to London to have his, quote, story verified by truth-seeking drugs.
Wow.
In other words, they wanted to do some MKUltra shit to Bryant.
Yeah.
And Nedeljkovic connects this story of the CIA that he's got, where basically in this operation, they used, quote, experimental drugs used to induce specific hallucinatory material, as well as, quote, microwave transmissions. And Nedeljkovic tells Reynolds that this incident in London with this man involved, quote, the injudicious use of microwave technology, and he claims that this is what led to Bryant's tumor.
Okay. Yeah.
And so if we're to believe all this stuff, the CIA nuked this man. He got a tumor after his UFO experience, and he began to just conflate things, maybe hallucinate things. A lot of people are some of the, I think Oliver's sort of takeaway is that perhaps he felt he was in too deep by the time he started talking, didn't expect his story to get as crazy as it did. And by the time investigators were getting involved with him, he doubled down. Did the tumor influence any of this? And did the CIA do it?
Yeah.
Intentional or no?
What did the CIA not do? Is becoming more of the question.
Yeah. It's just, and I don't even know whether I can just snap off I believe this 100%. Because I think I need to look into this Nedeljkovic cat real quick.
Yeah. That seems like a pretty interesting fountain.
Here's the thing. Nedeljkovic, in talking to Reynolds, this is the guy who connects MKUltra to the Antonio Villas-Boas incident.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that, at least as far as I can tell, initially comes from, is this guy. So
all right.
I don't know. I'm sure that there's a lot of information I'm missing with regards to this guy. There's more to it, but man, I mean, it's ridiculous. Something I really liked is that Eileen Buckle, she never seemed to really let go the alien thing. One of her, she speculates on what happened here and offers up a lot of things. One of my favorites is that she was were the messages that we received during this investigation a prank? And I hear that phrase and I go, oh yeah, okay, a prank, that's a possibility. And then she elaborates, a prank not by the spacemen, but the space children, having fun with them. Because spacemen wouldn't do that. Space children,
right? They're too serious.
Would pull a prank like this, which is it's a very absurd idea. but I kind of love it.
It I think it might be maybe a little less likely than CIA, but space children is a good theory.
Yeah. She also, like, she's got some other stuff, like, she theorizes, like, did these space people do all this to demonstrate that Adamski was telling the truth? Or were the malevolent entities there doing the shit with the messages and basically seeding disinformation and throwing them off their trail to discount the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Or is Oliver right and there's like a hoax that happened here? And did the CIA... That's what makes the whole thing with Oliver's arm going paralyzed and having the ringing ears so freaky, because if you also
got microwave guns.
You also look into this time period, they were working on experimental like remote weapons technology using like sonic waves and shit.
Yeah.
So if the CIA thing is even true, which again I can't say I'm 100% convinced,
he got Havana syndrome.
Yeah, he got Havana syndromed. It's like it's so crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to this story. I do recommend, if you want even more details, like go check out the Flying Saucers episode, or not Flying Saucers, the episode Saucer Life episode on this, because it's very good. That's a great show. I honestly have to tap into it quite often because of shit like this where I don't have the book and the book's impossible to get or whatever. And usually this guy has the book. So that is the Scoriton incident, the Ernest Bryant case, the Scoriton affair, the Scoriton mystery. That's mostly it. I mean, any final thoughts, Niall?
I mean, MK Ultra across the pond. Like, why keep that shit in the US, you know?
Well, that's the thing, is like, that like when they were doing a lot of early CIA stuff and the OSS, they were working directly with the intelligence agencies in Britain, especially with the formation of the OSS and all that. The thing that I've come to understand about a lot of the freaks and geeks at the OSS and then the CIA are that they were like British worshippers. Like they loved that stuff for whatever reason. They're Anglophiles.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't, and again, during MK Ultra, I don't know, like there's nothing saying that this was explicitly an MK Ultra sub-project, but it's similar, at least in vibes, to an MK Ultra style project. So, it's they would like go across the world setting up safe houses in Japan and Germany and shit, doing this stuff and sometimes killing people. I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they had bases of operation all over England. So
yeah, that's fucked up. All right.
So yeah, did the CIA kill this UFO experiencing farmer? I don't know. Or not farmer. He lived on farmland or near farmland. Fuck it. He's whatever he was. Anyways, are you ready for a big question?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Given all the characters involved in this story, and you can pick any of them, let's say 3 of them. Who in the Scoriton case is in the Dream Blunt rotation?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm going to tell you one who's out for me.
Yeah.
Oliver. Guy's no fun. Oh, it's a big hoax and there's no aliens at all.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
that is probably the least.
So he's kind of out, I think. I'll tell you one who I want in mind.
Yeah.
The CIA guy writing all those messages.
Yeah, that does seem like a pretty fun
Get
one.
in here.
Like, if can I just like draft the space children?
Sure. So you
I feel like space
Yamsky
children
in on this?
Yeah, we'll get
Start him
Yamsky
young,
in there. We'll get like. I mean, space children could be of any age, and
Right.
maybe weed is good for space children.
Well, if you remember, when he met the reincarnated form of Adamski in the form of Yamsky, he looked like
it's a fucking
teenage boy.
That's a sentence that makes any sense.
They make sense after the last 2
Yeah, he's
hours.
like 13 or whatever the
like
fuck.
that.
That is weird that maybe I don't want to smoke blunts with space children.
It could be like an anime thing where like, oh, I'm 100 years
They
old,
just
but
look
I
like-
look like I'm 14, and that's fine. Which is probably the title of an anime.
Probably, yeah.
So-
I was in reincarnated 14 years old, but I am actually 100.
I would actually
whatever.
read I am the reincarnated form of George Adamski, but I look 14 years old. I would probably read that manga.
Yeah, going to speak at UFO conferences, but no one takes him seriously.
Now, you know who I do want, in the other person I really want in the blunt rotation, and you can choose to agree or disagree. I want to chat with Eileen Buckle. Everything that they were saying on The Saucer Life was like she wrote the book really well, and she seems to be kind of a true believer. I think she'd be fun to talk to.
Yeah, I think she was a candidate for me. I think like I would take her and then the Shandy twins just to bring it back from last episode. You know,
That's right, the Shandy.
Because I think beer and fucking lemons or whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah, it was Dole and
Dole. There we go.
Lager or whatever.
Dole and like Joe Beer.
Dole and Beer. I think his name was just Beer, actually. Now that I think about it, Lager. For my last pick in this draft, I would like to take Ernest Bryant's wife.
Just because you think that no one she's been kind of underserved by the story and deserves a chance to kind of have some fun.
Well, no, because she's single now.
Okay. Yeah.
No, for real though. So her, because I feel like if I got her smoking a doobie, that's what I call marijuana, by the way, doobies.
Yeah.
If I got her smoking a doobie, maybe she'd tell me about Bryant and open up the mystery some more. Like, let me in on some more information that would help me understand all the things that went down with this, because even though it is ultimately considered a hoax by most people, I still think there's so many weird details that I kind of just want to know more that we'll probably never get.
So you're gonna bring this woman into your blunt rotation just to pump her for info.
Yeah, I'm going to basically browbeat the widow for information over marijuana.
Okay.
So,
all right. Look, you got to get
when you
your
put it
sources
that way
somehow.
now, it sounds pretty bad. It sounds pretty bad.
I started off by saying I want to smoke weed with children. So like we're both, I figure we both had to like poison the well a little bit at the end of the episode.
Yeah. And again, I would just be very clear here that like, if we're doing all this, it's in a state where it's legal, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, that's the Scoriton mystery. Are you ready to move on to some business here?
I think I am. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts, look up It Gets Weird wherever you listen, and we're almost certainly there.
You can also follow us on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird, where I will probably post a little more often than Twitter, because Twitter sucks. I don't know if I need to elaborate on that. And then twitch.tv/itgetsweird. Me and my good buddy Colin, we beat Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, and now we're starting a Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke, which was so much fun that I've been thinking about it since we did it, and I'm like, fuck, I can't wait to get back to playing more Pokemon. So please give us a follow there. We have a lot of fun with our viewers and listeners from the show who show up, so check it out. Email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your stories or your comments on the episode or questions, or even if we got something wrong and you're like, hey, you missed this interesting, important detail, let us know. Just let us know how we should address you, and we might read your email out on the show if it's good. Most importantly, patreon.com/itgetsweird. You got to check it out. That's where you're going to give us your money and help us out as we make the best show about the paranormal and Fortiana on the market, frankly. So patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier that's just a tip. You're just giving us a tip saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. But at the $2 tier, you get access to It Gets Weird TV, where right now, Niall and I are in the back half of Neon Genesis Evangelion. We watch all kinds of weird TV on there. We discuss it. We have a lot of fun talking about these shows. And people who donate to the Patreon, they get to vote on which show we watch next. So we've watched all kinds of good stuff like The X-Files, Supernatural, Project Blue Book. It's been good, and people get to help us choose. So if you want to be able to vote for that and listen to that show, check out the $2 tier. But at the $5 tier, you get even more bang for your buck in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. We have a show called World of Weird where Niall and I kind of just get to talk about whatever the hell we want, and it's a lot of fun. And it's going. Sorry, oh my god, I'm so used to doing these ad reads, which I guess is what they are, that my brain just short circuits.
Yeah, sometimes you just go on autopilot and then your brain catches up and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
What did I just do? So yeah, $5 tier, that's the best tier to donate at. But whether you donate to the $5 tier or the $2 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday on your own special Patreon feed. And you get access to the Discord where we hang out chatting directly with our listeners. So please give us some of your money. I promise it's worth it. We have just such a huge back catalog of bonus content on our Patreon. You will be busy for so long listening to all our shit. So check it out. If you can't donate, though, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out. Peace.